as more a part-time role instead of a full-time role. Have you ever sort of struggled with that? And how do you, if you are in that situation, how do you overcome it? How do you still get your message across and make an influence in the team?
Yeah, I think most of the work I've done has been part-time, you know. I think what's really important is to manage expectations. So if I'm a part-time role, what can I do? I can advise a coach. We can chat a lot. So I'm only going to see the team once a week, but I'm going to be on the phone to the coach 3 times a week. And just manage the expectations with the players. If I'm in a full-time role, I'm way more available for one-on-ones. We're going to have a bit of insight into the system and greater systemic reads. I would say you'd be able to react quicker to things. You know, if you're the part-time guy, you're in there once a week, you might come in and have a session or a conversation or observe something, but it's 6 days too late. And you know, well, from sport, stuff happens quickly. So I think just managing expectations, whether you're part-time or full-time, is important. And I think you can be valuable in both, but just make sure I can do X if I'm full-time and Y if I'm part-time.
Sure. And in terms of just getting the players buy-in, so they're seeing you once a week coming into their team meeting, and then you sort of expressing your ideas to them. And sometimes, or the teams you've worked with, there's been a lot of big personalities. How have you sort of managed that expectation?
Great question, Archie. I think a couple of things. Firstly, you are, in a lot of senses, you're still selling your trade, and then you're selling yourself. You know, because some people are like, oh, I don't need this guy to tell me what to do, you know. So that's the first thing. I think back in the day, I would have taken any gig. Like if a coach phoned me, I mean, I had an amazing story many years ago. A coach asked me to come and do a workshop with his team. I arrived in there. The team was sitting in a half moon. He started giving me cash in front of them before I'd started. So I sort of had to push him away and just say, like, it's a bit embarrassing. And then he didn't intro me. There's no introduction. He just sat down. So I had to start this meeting completely out of context. The one guy 20 minutes in said, sorry, I forgot your name. Didn't even know my name. It was a disaster. It was a complete disaster. Now I would only go in with a real warm endorsement from a coach or a senior player. So I would have met them before, try to understand, find out as much information I can about the team as I can. And then you make sure you get endorsed. And then also you just slowly but surely, you know, if I come in there to RCB and I start telling Virat Kohli, this is what you must do, he's going to laugh me out the room, you know. Whereas if you go there and you see that the coach is also listening to you and you ask a few questions and you show that you're interested in inquiring, I think you're way more likely to get buy-in from them. But as you'll know in sport, Archie, sport and ego go together like bacon and eggs, you know, and you're always going to have challenging people who are not that interested in the work you do. And just deal with it. Yeah, for sure. And if we just look at the different environments that you have been in terms of culture as well, but also across the sport codes. So if we just review it, you've been in cricket in South Africa, you've been in rugby in South Africa, you've been rugby in Australia and cricket in India. Across those different sports and cultures, would you say that there's anything that pops out to you in terms of, this is part of the successful environment, this is what stands out across all those 3 different sports and cultures? Yeah, I mean, I still believe that if there's a connection around something in any competition, there's more likely to be success. So that might be a deep connection to a deeper cause or meaning. That might be a connection just to an idea or value system. It might be a connection around a particular person even, you know, like a charismatic person or a couple of people and everyone just buys into them. So there's some connection to something else other than just individual aspirations, I would say, first thing. Second thing I found I still believe successful people are intentional. So they're super deliberate around what they do. Like, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we're going to track. This is what we're going to measure. This is what we're going to review. I always use the sort of 4-pronged attack. If I want to get something in my sports team, I've got to communicate it, reward it, select it, and train it. I've got to if I want I'm not that familiar with hockey, but if I want guys to work hard off the ball, I've got to train it in creative ways. I've got to talk about it, create a theme around it. I've got to reward it, like affirm people, just not money, but affirm. And I've got to select it. If you've got a good player and he's not working hard off the ball, I've got to drop him or her. So super intentional around that, which ultimately, Archie, as I said at the start of the comp, is like your dominoes. So super intentional on your dominoes and connected to something other than just self. I would say those are two major things I've seen in success.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting. I was reading a book.
And thirdly, good players.
Crucial, absolutely crucial. I was reading a book the other day about a coach in the NBA, and he also had a similar concept regarding rewarding an effort that contributed to the team's success. So in their example, it was the same thing, working off the ball, chasing back. They called it 40 for 40. And it was exactly that concept. It was like in the team meeting afterwards, they would make a big thing about it. And the players knew that was part of their sort of DNA as a team.
Yeah, Archie, sports is funny. I mean, I'm not that old and neither are you, but it's funny how the more things change, the more they stay the same, And even in this COVID crisis, I said to someone, or I've said to a few people recently that whilst a lot of stuff is changing, there's certain principles that will always work for us. Be innovative, work hard. Those things, whether it's COVID or not COVID, are always going to be around,
Yeah.
And I think it's the same in sport. We potentially get caught up in being clever or the next tactical way to be and technical way to be. Those aren't wrong. Those are important. And I get cross with people in my world who belittle the technical, because the technical is very important. And I know because I'm also doing some coaching. It's very important. But don't get so clever that you forget to emphasize key things that are controllable, like working hard. Find me a sports documentary of a successful guy that said he was lazy. It's not happening. Or not a sustainable